Niteo. So I was teaching abroad in the public and private school system internationally for 20 years. And then I moved back and repatriated back to Canada. And realizing the necessity for well being, I decided to dive deeper into yoga and meditation. And so I've since become a yoga meditation teacher as well, and have been able to integrate that now that I work for the Toronto District School Board. I feel very grateful that I'm able to integrate that and bring in now academics as well as my knowledge and expertise with social emotional learning and mindfulness and moving the body. So it's great that I can integrate both aspects into my work with students and adults, all different ages. And then with Niteo as well, it was really lovely because as I was transitioning back to working in the school system, he gave me several students. And it was neat, being able to teach different age groups from, I guess the youngest was kindergarten, and I think the oldest was in grade 7. And I'm able to, sometimes bring in this mindfulness. Sometimes parents have asked me, my kid's a little bit antsy. Could you bring in some movement? Or, they're struggling with something. Is it possible to bring in some mindfulness for just, the beginning of the class? So that's been very helpful as well. What's happening is that families, educators in the world are more open to it and more cognizant of the need for themselves to have self-regulation and more movement, sort of more intentionality in life. And so because of that understanding, they've been able to realize that, of course, the younger people around them, their loved ones need this, definitely if they need it, right? So I feel like with this openness, families and educators, society is much more open-minded and willing to embrace this as just a regular part of our day now.
And I know you mentioned that you have alopecia, which is an autoimmune condition.
So I've had it since I was a teenager, and that's a really challenging time, and I've had it on and off until now. And so it's interesting because when I was living abroad, not many people had that condition, so I kind of had to face it on my own. But in doing so, I think there was some strength because I was able to educate people as I met them. And as people, just realized that it was, it's nothing. It's alopecia is really just an autoimmune condition, and there's so many out there. And in my condition, it attacks the hair follicles. So it can be anywhere on the body, it can be on the head, on the face, and it affects any age group at any time. I repatriated back to Canada and then rediscovered the CANAF group, which is the Canadian Association for Alopecia Areata, and have now become a co-facilitator or leader of the Toronto group. And it's great. They've asked me to do yoga meditation for the upcoming conference. So they haven't had one in the last couple of years. So I'll be offering mindfulness and meditation and yoga to families, as well as any age group of participants who want to join in, just as another way of showing that there's multiple ways of finding ease and calm and joy, in our bodies and in our minds and with each other. If I hadn't had it, I don't think I would have maybe developed, like you said, this connection to my body and mind, where I always have to check in to make sure that I'm using my energy in a caring way. And also being very compassionate, understanding towards others, because it can be our society can be very sort of caught up with the way people look or how much they do in a day. And because I've had to step back and, embrace, not having hair, and embrace the fact that I have to check in with myself to make sure, I'm taking care of myself, not doing too much, managing my energy, my stress level, and all those sort of things. So definitely it's influenced how I teach as an educator, noticing all the, individual ways that children and people just present themselves and how they're all very special, beyond just what society might label or has been labeling in the past. And as well as, integrating the importance of mindfulness and movement into every moment, right? As much as we can. Like that's equally important to all the academics for sure, maybe even more, right? I teach kindergarten at the moment, the JKs and SKs, and I love that age group because they're just so curious, you know, they're so authentic.
Do they
And
ask you? I'm sure they've asked, you know. They have no filter, the little ones. So do they ever come up and ask you?
It's funny. I brought it up because I usually bring it up
Hmm.
just so I can educate and, any questions. But they just, because I wear a hat normally, and they just think I've got cool hats, which is great, because it's fashion still, right?
Exactly.
Um, and they might ask a couple questions, like, does it hurt, stuff like that. And then it's like nothing, like they see, that they see beyond the typical, way, because kids, they all look, they're wearing capes and princess crowns. They come as they are as well, right?
It's
And then
true.
they'll pass on, which is great. They'll pass on what they learn. So we do, breathing to self-regulate. We do a lot of movement, and they do that with their parents, because it becomes part of their habits and their joys, which is great. So it's great to be able to share it with children, and then when they, feel their way through it and they can bring it into their lives, they naturally bring it onto their family. So they're such a great, role model influence to their own families, actually. In order to be a good learner, you have to be ready to learn, and to be ready to learn, you have to feel safe and well, right, in your body and mind. And also just, with alopecia areata becoming more and more in the spotlight, um, just sort of sending out sort of a kudos to anybody else who might have it out there, especially children, that they're not alone. CANAF is available. They do have a children's group and teenager group, and people are, they're able to contact me if they want to know more about that as well. So thanks.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jennifer.